Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Advait Universe, which means the existence of a universe in a state of non-duality, which further means that you and I are one, though operating at a different frequency, located at different places, but we are still one. So hello everyone, my pseudonym is Tara and it means a star, and I believe we all are stars here operating in a human body, working at different frequencies, working for different purposes. So today's session is going to be very interesting, and this is going to be the love story of Mahadev and Shakti. If we talk about that in spirituality or within a body, it is the romance between the crown chakra, that is the Mahadev, and the root chakra, that is the Shakti energy. However, we are going to deal this in a third dimensional body, as the Shakti has taken a third dimensional body and Mahadev has also taken a third dimensional body. So the story is not about the inner journey of root chakra to crown chakra, or crown to root, or not root, I mean the heart chakra. This is not an internal explanation of the energies, but the physical manifestation of the energies. So Shakti, that is within, has manifested in a third dimensional body, a body you can touch, see. And since she descended here on earth in a third dimensional body, his beloved other half descended too. Now he's Mahadev the immortal. He doesn't die. But Shakti, in her various life, she actually dies many times. So in this session we are going to talk about this, right? The physical, how this love story unfolds. This love story crosses many dimensions and many lifetimes. And though the immortal Mahadev, Shiva, stays here for his beloved Shakti, Shakti undergoes multiple deaths because of various reasons. Ultimately, that one final birth happens when she reunites with Shiva forever. And this we are going to call the permanent union, harmonious union. Now let's deal with it in a very simpler way. And before we start this, let me tell you, if you're a non-believer of spirituality, or maybe you don't truly believe in the story, take it as a story, as a beautiful love story. Enjoy this as a story. But for the believers, I would like to tell you that this is a very intelligent universe, a very conscious universe. And do not compare our own capabilities to the capabilities of the consciousness, the capabilities of the universe or the cosmos. The cosmos is capable of a lot of stuff that we cannot imagine. It can take many forms in the sense that it's beyond our own comprehension what is actually happening. It's a very magical world that we live in. So for the believers, let me tell you, this is an actual story that has actually happened millions of years ago. And the higher dimensional Shiva and higher dimensional Shakti did descend on the third dimensional plane millions and millions of years ago in a physical body. Though the earth was different back then, the frequencies of the earth, the grids of the earth were different back then. To hold the energy of the cosmic goddess and to hold the energy of the cosmic supreme god Mahadev, the earth was different. The energy of the earth is now depleted, and we are operating on this, and our energy is nowhere near them. But this is about millions of years ago. So let's start with a beautiful love story. So for some reason, I might tell you later if I'm allowed to or if I feel like. So for some reason, Shakti's frequency fell down, or Shakti actually chose to come down. Any of the two happened. And she descended onto the third dimensional plane for reasons X, Y, Z. So Mahadev joined her here So this is a beautiful bond between Shakti and Shiva, that wherever Shakti goes, Shiva will follow her. If Shakti chooses to go in the lower planes, Shiva will follow her in the lower planes, in those forms that is capable of being sustained in those lower planes. If Shakti goes into the higher realms, Shiva will follow her into the higher realms. Now, this is a human body, but let's talk about it in a scientific manner. Now imagine one atom, one very potent atom. It splits into two, right? It splits into two. And the energy of the atom is released. The atom, with some coding, with some conditioning or coding, or maybe the logs, maybe that atom stays, but the energy of that atom is released. So the atom is actually split into two. And this is not an ordinary atom, not a water atom or a glass size atom. No, this is, I'm talking about somewhere compare it to the Big Bang, right? So that kind of atom, that kind of particle I'm talking about, the God particle. So the atom split, and now that the other half of the atom is actually going about anywhere. So the atom that is actually going about anywhere with high intensity, without any purpose, is just going anywhere. That's the energy of Shakti. The atom that is left behind after the split, that holds the code of the universe, that holds the genetic information of the universe, that holds the key to the universe, is left back without any energy. That's the Mahadev energy. Okay, now this is a very intelligent cosmos. So for some reason Shakti descended onto earth, but she descended as a mortal. This is the law of the universe. Anything that has taken birth on earth is going to die, and that's the law of the third dimensional plane. Death is inevitable. So Shakti was taking birth here on earth for many lifetimes. And Mahadev actually joined her here. And why did he join here? Why did he join her here? So this is also very interesting. Now let's again, this is the third dimensional body. We are going to, the love story is going to unfold after a while. But let's again talk about a particle. Now there is this intense attraction between two atoms. You can call it quarks or anything like that. There's a huge magnetic attraction between two atoms. And the desire to unite is immense. The atom is actually complete, is whole, when the both parts of the same particle actually unite. And if it's not together, it's just chaotic, right? So it has to be united. And what happens when Shakti comes onto the third dimensional plane taking multiple births? Mahadev descends onto earth. Now, since Mahadev is immortal, he hasn't taken birth on earth. He has just descended because his true love has taken a mortal's form, a third dimensional body. So he descends here on earth. What happens now? That this is the cosmic love that is now taking place millions of years ago on earth. Now, earth is that place. Imagine gods descending onto earth. What would it be? Must be beautiful. So now they're here together, and there are multiple unions that have happened between Shakti and Shiva. But now just understand the frequency of the atom. Now there is this one part of the atom or particle that has the codes or the logs encoded, right? And the other part has a lot of energy but without any codes. To fuse both the codes together, they need to vibrate at a certain frequency. Both the particles need to meet at a certain frequency. Now if we see it in the field of physics, now imagine there's some reaction taking place in in a controlled environment. Now, scientists are actually doing some experiments with some atom, some particle, right? Some quantum particles. Actually, this is a quantum particle that we are talking about when we talk about Shiva and Shakti. So they are doing some research on the quantum particle, or just a hydrogen atom. So they need to fuse it, or break it or split it in a controlled environment. And if they want to fuse it together for a bigger purpose, they still need to have a controlled environment, a stable environment. At a certain temperature, at a certain pressure, they need to vibrate at a certain frequency. This is pure physics. So the energy between the physical body of Shiva and Shakti. Now imagine if both the third dimensional bodies are removed, what is left behind is pure energy. So now this energy has to be fused at a certain frequency. Mahadev is already filled with quotes. He is the higher consciousness. He is actually vibrating at a very high frequency. But when Shakti is born onto the lower planes, she is taking birth here as a human, in a human form. So when she is taking birth here in a human form, she is vibrating at a lower frequency. So what happens is that they meet many times, they unite many times, but it is very temporary. They don't stay together for long. Because of death, of course, Mahadev tried to make her immortal by doing something, by telling her some stories like that, but he couldn't succeed because the timing was not right, the frequencies were not set, the grids were not updated, they were not actually vibrating at a similar frequency, so that union that Mahadev would desire did not happen. So this was happening in multiple births. Now let's come to the main birth that actually was the second last birth of Shakti. So now she is born as Sati, and a beautiful romantic union does take place between Mahadev and Shakti and Sati, I mean. So they are together, but Sati is still vibrating at a lower frequency. She hasn't truly reached the consciousness. Her frequency is still not matching that of Mahadev, though she is actually a part of Mahadev and Mahadev is part of Shakti. But still, the way the energy in Mahadev's body is vibrating and the energy that is vibrating in the body of Sati is not same. So what happens? It's a beautiful story that goes here in India, that both Mahadev and Sati were living in the Kailash Parvat, the Kailash mountains, and there was an event, a celebration held in Sati's father's house. So when she married Mahadev, she left everything and she had gone to the mountains to live with Mahadev. And Sati's father did not approve of Mahadev because of his crude demeanor and his group, his surroundings, and the way he conducted himself. It was not very polished. And his authentic self did not truly appeal to Sati's father, so he did not accept Mahadev as his son-in-law. And this is very natural. It still happens here on earth that we do not approve of somebody, right? So this is also very, very third dimensional behavior. So anyways, Sati is also very third dimensional, and her father too. But Mahadev was the higher consciousness. He was still operating from that frequency. So what happens? There was this celebration taking place at Sati's father's house, and she wasn't invited, and neither was her husband, that is Mahadev. Now, please have a very broad mind in this before I carry on with the story. The story that I'm talking about is not the energetic story. It's a physical love happening on a physical plane. I'm talking about husband and wife. I'm talking about one particle split into two, operating in third dimensional bodies. They are one being. They have one particle within themselves, but they are here in the third dimensional plane, in third dimensional bodies. So, and they are also married, but this did not last any longer, because as every woman, almost every woman, we tend to be very emotional about our parents, people we love. We get very angry, or we get agitated, irritated on certain stuffs. So she wasn't invited, but she chose to go to her father's place. That no matter if I'm invited or not, I'm going to go and visit my father's place, because there's an event being held and I'm his daughter, so I have to be there. And Mahadev told her not to go there. He's the wise one. He told you, where you're not invited, you shouldn't be there. This is the boundary of self-respect. And this is what is being taught to women in these days, that we need to have our own self-respect. So Mahadev actually taught this to Sati. Actually not taught, he was trying to tell her this, but she got really angry at her husband, as most women do. We get angry on our spouses. So she got very angry, and she told him that if he doesn't want to come, it's okay, but she's anyways going to her father's house. And she went to her father's house uninvited. Now, if you see the energy of the frequency of Shakti, this is operating at a lower frequency, which means, and this is no judgment, because we all are there, and we relate so much with Sati that even though she was not invited, she went out of sheer love for her father, and she thought that she's unconditionally accepted by her father. So she went to be a part of the celebration. But at the same time, she did not like it when she wasn't accepted the way she expected. So she did have some expectations within herself, which is again a lower frequency. She got angry when she was insulted. Mahadev was insulted. She got angry. Now, anger is also a lower frequency. And she got so angry that she actually jumped into the fire ceremony that was happening. And that act of jumping into the fire can be termed as originating from hurt, sadness, or maybe from ego, that how dare you. And she actually cursed the whole celebration, which cursing is also a low frequency energy. Beautifully, now we have to understand it, that she is the cosmic goddess in a human body. She is mortal now, because she is following the law of the universe, that mortality is important. If you have taken birth here on the third dimension, mortality has to come to you. At the same time, she is behaving in a very human manner, with some lower frequencies operating within her. Though she loved Mahadev and everything, which is a higher frequency, she still imbibed some lower frequency, right? Like anger, ego, cursing, and going someplace uninvited. And if we look around ourselves, we find women doing that, and it's not a very good place. We feel very rejected or insulted, and going to places where we're not invited, it doesn't feel nice, but still we kind of do, because we kind of run on our own emotions. So she jumped into that fire celebration, that fire altar. It's called yagya. So she jumped into it, and in the modern day world, it's called suicide, and that's also a kind of a sin, but in those times, let's call it a sacrifice. She sacrificed herself that day. Now imagine two particles together. Now imagine one particle is gone. So now Mahadev is the other particle that is left behind. Now the real pain of Mahadev, let's discuss about the real pain of Mahadev. Imagine Mahadev descended onto earth out of sheer love for Shakti. Shakti is operating from a lower dimension. Now this is the Mrityu Lok. Mrityu Lok means the Lok of death. And it's not the heaven, the heavens are, the other lokas in the higher realms, they are the higher realms. So Mahadev left all those beautiful realms and descended down on the third dimensional realm, which is not very good when compared to the other realms, but he chose a third dimensional body. And even though he's immortal, he can feel every pain that happens on the third dimension. This is the cosmos and the architecture of the cosmos, that whenever you are in a certain plane, you experience certain emotions or certain frequencies of that plane. So though he is the immortal and the cosmos himself, he has descended onto earth, and now he's going to experience the frequencies of the earth. Imagine somebody totally, madly, deeply in love with you. Or maybe, let's reverse this whole situation. Imagine you being madly, totally, like you're so crazy in love that you actually left the higher realms and you've descended down for that person. To hold that person, to bring her up, because Shakti needs to rise, she needs to go to the higher realms. But she can't do it alone because she is half of the particle. She can't do it on her own because she doesn't have the consciousness. And only the wiser one can ascend, right? So now Shiva actually descended down so that he can get her up. And the reason he descended down, the reason is love. And Sati chose to leave him. And this was one of the most painful heartbreak that Mahadev went through. That he left the higher realms. He is the cosmos himself. He could have experienced his own world through any dimension, the higher dimension. But he chose the third dimension to experience his own world. So he descended for his love. And his love, that is Sati, that is Shakti in the form of Sati, she chose ego over love. She chose anger over love. She chose defiance over love. She chose to sacrifice herself over love. She chose curse over love. She chose her father's uninvited, celebration over his love. And when she sacrificed herself, when Mahadev came to know about it, imagine one particle lost the other particle. Mahadev is stuck into a world. He can still go. He can still leave the third dimensional realm. He's Mahadev, he's cosmos, he can go into any dimension. But he still cannot go because the frequency of the other particle did not rise. The frequency of the other particle is still low. And if Mahadev chooses to go back, the other particle, the frequency shall be trapped into the third dimension. She is Shakti. She is still there in the higher dimension. But for some reason she has descended here on earth in the third dimensional body. So imagine that Mahadev is now trapped here. And he felt extremely rejected. And this is what, in my own spiritual journey and all the guidances and the knowledge that has been bestowed upon me with the grace of God and the blessings of my Guru, this is what has been taught to me, that the heartbreak Mahadev went through was so immense, and the rejection Mahadev felt from his wife was so immense that he closed his eyes and he went into a deep meditative state. And that also happened much later. He got so angry that he actually picked up the burnt body of Sati. Imagine a husband who is madly, deeply in love with his wife, holding the dead body of her. This is so heartbreaking. And imagine the pain of the cosmos when the cosmos is holding a dead energy in his arms. Imagine the intensity of the emotion. How much can you feel and how much can the cosmos feel? Imagine the intensity of pain he must have gone through. He is Mahadev. He did not take birth here. So his pain and the pain of a normal human being is going to be very different. So he's the cosmos, now he's experiencing everything in a greater magnitude. So now imagine the pain Mahadev was going through. So he picked up the body of Sati. Of course, the whole celebration that was going through was ruined, and many were killed because of Mahadev's anger, because his wife actually jumped into the fire. So all that happened, but what about the pain, the rage that Mahadev was going through? That couldn't be pacified by any means. So Vishnu interfered here. He entered with his Sudarshan Chakra and he cut the body of Sati, so that the attachment to the body that Mahadev had dissipates. So Sati's body is cut into multiple parts, and they all fall on earth, and they are famous Shakti peats. And now Shiva doesn't have anything to hold. Now even the body that he was holding, that is attachment, that is Maya that he was holding, now even that is gone. So now there is nothing for Shiva to hold on to. Now this is one of the greatest love story, and this is real for the believers, and for the non-believers, take it as a story. But imagine the pain he's going through. So he doesn't want to live in a world where Shakti doesn't exist. He doesn't want to be in a world where his wife doesn't exist. So he closes his eyes and he goes into a deep meditative state. Why did he do that? First, he did not want to be in a world where his love wasn't there. Second, he wanted to join Shakti in the higher realms, because Shakti was already there in the higher realms. Her particle descended onto earth, right? So in Kashmir Advait or Shaivism or Shaktism, it is believed that every person is a manifestation of the goddess and the god. Shiv and Shakti, everybody is a manifestation of them, operating at a different frequency in a different dimension. So same ways, it goes back then that the Shakti was already there in the higher realms without a body. But Mahadev was here in a body, and he couldn't leave this place because that particle of Shakti did not ascend. That particle of Shakti, that half of the particle was still not in the higher frequencies, and she had left the body. So Mahadev closes his eyes and he goes into a deep meditative state and joins Shakti in the higher realms. His body is in the Kailash Parvat, his mind is in the higher realms. Now comes the moment that Parvati is still not born, and this meditative state, this sleep state, where he turns his back to this third dimensional world, where he closes his eyes to this third dimensional world and joins Shakti. This is a story of millions of years, which means Mahadev was here on earth alone for millions of years, unaccompanied by his consort, unaccompanied by his wife. And imagine the pain of a man who descended onto earth for the love, because he just cannot live without his love, and his love chose death over his love. So imagine the pain. Anyways, he had joined Shakti in the higher realms. But imagine if the cosmos turns blind to the third dimension, what will happen? Mahadev is cosmos himself, and he goes into a deep meditative state, which means he did not care what was happening here on the third dimension. And when the cosmos doesn't care what's happening in the third dimension, chaos became rampant. There was chaos here and there. The Asuras had gained power from the lower realms, and they started occupying the third dimension. There were murders, robberies, loots, plunders, tortures, and anarchy was all over the place. And this anarchy looked on the third dimensional plane, right? But in the energetic world, there was a lot of chaos, like a lot of pain and a lot of sadness and melancholy and everything. Even the trees were not blooming properly. The birds were just dying because of the energetic imbalance that was happening. The cosmos has turned its back to the third dimension. Now, this is a story of millions of years. The earth was not stabilizing and Mahadev was not ready to open his eyes. So, the Brahmaji, the one who actually created all this, he got worried and he asked Shakti in the higher realms that you have to go back to the third dimension because your particle is right there. You left them and your particle is also still there. So you have to take the birth again and complete your journey of the higher realms. So Shakti in the higher realms, her particle of the lower realms was still in the lower realm and the frequency of Shakti did not rise. So Shakti had to be born again, take that birth, to take that particle's body and rise her frequency. Parvati was sent on earth. She has taken birth again now after millions of years. Mahadev is still in the Kailash, closed his eyes and he doesn't care. Now Shakti is born as Parvati. She has taken that lower form again in a human body into that particle that was left in that third dimension without any body, without any ascension, right? Shakti had left the world. Unfinished journey, unfinished frequency, unfinished, right? So again she's born in the lower realms. Now, in the third dimension, her frequency is still not vibrating at a frequency where she can actually fuse with Shiva, where she can fuse with Mahadev in the physical world. That they did have a purpose here on earth, why they came here and why it was important for them to fuse here in the third dimension. But that purpose can be discussed later on if I feel like discussing that, or if I'm guided to put that on the video, I'll do that. But for now, just understand this, that their union was required on the third dimensional plane. So everybody in the higher realms started orchestrating this grand union on third dimensional plane. And Parvati was born to unite with Shiva. They were supposed to, of course, leave this third dimensional plane together. And there were other reasons also. Mostly the destabilization of the third dimensional realm. So now Parvati is the other half of Mahadev. So when she was born, and when she was growing up, she just started to have visions of Mahadev, dreams of Mahadev. Now she has actually completed some of her ascension in her previous birth. So when she is in a final birth, that is Parvati, she actually has some abilities, natural abilities. So now she actually has those visions of Mahadev and she's madly in love with Mahadev already without any rhyme or reason because of her previous births. The recognition doesn't happen in this lifetime, but there was this sense of recognition that was in her subconscious, following the previous births. So she knew she was in love with Mahadev, and Mahadev knew that Shakti has come back to this world. Imagine what he must be thinking. That wow, she has come back. This is what he felt. But he ignored Shakti in the form of Parvati. He completely shunned Parvati. Even though he knew that his love has returned. His love has returned to unite with him. But still he chose to ignore her. Because he was so pained by the act of sati. He was so pained by the act of sati. And he was so pained by the rejection that he couldn't bear another rejection. He knew that sati or Parvati, she is vibrating at a lower frequency. She is vibrating from anger, ego, hate, all these kinds of energy. And she's very unstable. And Shiva did not intend to join her in those frequencies anymore. Shiva was also operating from a negative frequency, from a lower frequency, because he did not start meditating for a greater purpose. He started to meditate or close his eyes in this third dimension because of the fear or the abandonment issue or being alone, stuck alone here. So he actually started to meditate, or he thought to join Shakti in the higher realms. He did have abandonment issues here. He did have the fear of losing the partner. He did have the fear of rejection. So when Parvati approached him, he rejected her. He did not choose her at all. Now, Parvati was guided divinely. She was divinely guided. The whole cosmos was actually orchestrating their divine union. So she started to raise her frequency through meditation. She left her father's home. She went into the jungles and she started to meditate. She didn't eat. She only meditated, and she tried to tap in their higher dimensional consciousness. Now, it's very important to understand that Shiva was actually being here out of unconditional love in lower frequencies of Shakti. Like Sati. Sati was operating at a lower frequency. Still he chose to be with her. But this time he was very adamant that no, nobody can break my heart again, even though it's Shakti herself. So now Shakti has come here on earth in the form of Parvati. Now she's raising a frequency. She's raising a frequency. She's going to meet Shiva in her body. She's going to raise her Kundalini in the energy. She's going to raise her energy from the root chakra to the crown chakra, come back to the heart chakra, merge it in the center of her body. So now she's doing that. And she was divinely guided. Brahmaji came himself to help her. And everybody was uniting him, trying to unite him, Mahadev, with Parvati, because of the greater good, the greater consciousness. And we'll discuss that in some time, why this was important. And once Parvati was fully enlightened and the frequency of Mahadev and Parvati became a match, the atoms, the same particle of two particles of the same atom were actually at a state that both the particles were vibrating at a similar frequency. Now forget the third dimensional body. Now just look at the energies between both the bodies that was residing. Now both the energies between the bodies are at a perfect match, at a perfect frequency. The pressure is perfect, the temperature is perfect, the conditions are perfect. The whole environment is very controlled. It's very stable. The atoms are stable. They're vibrating at a very stable rate. Now, this is the exact moment the union needs to happen. They need to fuse in one, to become one. But Mahadev was operating from some issues like abandonment and fear and rejection and jilted. So he was not getting up from his sleep at all. He was not coming out of his meditation at all. So Kamdev was sent. Now Kamdev is the third dimensional energy that actually resides in the root chakra. This is the sexual energy that wakes up the desires. The desires are woken up, the physical desires, the desire of physical union. So Kamdev was sent to bring Shiva back into the third dimension so that the desire of Shiva is woken up, the desire of physical union. But Mahadev opened his third eye and Kamdev was burnt into ashes because Mahadev got angry, because there he had also united with Shakti and somebody is again trying to bring him away from Shakti. So he got angry and he opened his eyes and Kamdev was burned into ashes. So now imagine a particle that is not stable. Mahadev right now is not stable because he's also operating from some other energies, right? Not the highest energy. So now imagine an unstable particle, though very stable for the union with the Shakti, but Mahadev is very unstable for any other energy. So Kamdev's energy doesn't match that of Mahadev's at all. So imagine a person trying to play with a hydrogen bomb, perhaps, I'll rather say. Imagine there's a hydrogen bomb put there and someone like me or you, a person is just going to wake it up, that wake up hydrogen bomb. what will happen? So imagine the potency of Mahadev. So he was woken up, and that was kind of energetic stuff that happened, and Kamdev was burnt into ashes. However, everybody convinced Mahadev that it's time for you to unite with Parvati for the greater good. And Parvati was doing her own stuff, and he understood that to uniting with Parvati when she's actually operating from a lower frequency wouldn't be good for him. So he thought to test her, and she was in the jungles, and she was actually doing her own thing, and Mahadev came to her, and he tried some tricks. He actually took a shape. Not shape. Actually, he actually turned into a sage, and he went to check Parvati, and he told some very demeaning and bad stuff about Mahadev to Parvati, that why are you doing all this for Mahadev? And he said really bad stuff about Mahadev. He pulled out all the tricks to test the frequency of Parvati, if Parvati is ready, if Parvati is ready to unite with me. And Parvati has stabilized, because Parvati has actually touched the consciousness that resides in a body. So she has actually touched the consciousness, and she has actually anchored her own energy. Shiva here had really strong walls, emotional walls. He has built really strong emotional walls, because he didn't want to feel the whole pain again. So when Shakti showed how calm and how stable she was, the energetic wall that Shiva had built for millions of years just crumbled down. The whole wall crumbled down, and that was the moment Shiva became Shiva again, the sweetest, the most vulnerable, the most loving person to Parvati. And this is the ultimate union that happened between Mahadev and Parvati. This is the harmonious, permanent union happened, and this is what we see in our homes here in India. We have this portrait of Shiva and Parvati. This is the ultimate family, ultimate union of husband and wife, together with kids like Ganesh and Kartik. Now, why was the union important for this third dimensional world? Now let's talk about it in a very scientific manner. Now imagine a human body. There is some cancer cell growing, and there is some medicine being put in a body. Now imagine if there is, in future technology, if any atom of some other chemical is put into the body, the atoms actually kill the viruses or the cancer cells. Imagine it like that. So this is a very biological thing that I'm talking. Now in the energetic plane, when two potent energies meet, imagine two potent energies fuse into one another. The frequency is so piercing. The frequency, the energy that is so potent, it releases so much of energy. Though it may not look like a bomb blast, though it may not like a detonation, no, but it is a detonation of energy, right? And the energy surge is so high that any lower frequency operating in the third dimensional world will be wiped out. How can I explain this? Imagine there is darkness. Come on, yeah, this is good actually. This one's good. Now imagine there is a street, right? There's a street here, and there's a lamppost, but that lamppost doesn't have an electricity. So what happens when the lamppost has a bulb, has the whole wiring to it, but it doesn't have electricity, and there's darkness on the road? What happens when the electricity is actually put into that lamppost, it just lights. And the moment it lights, the darkness vanishes. So when Shiva and Shakti unites in the third dimensional plane, and I'm talking about the quantum world, right? The energetic world, when their energies unite, it is so potent, that the lower frequencies of the asuras or any other frequency that's actually happening on the third dimensional plane, it actually gets wiped out. And this is something that we have to understand. The whole purpose of rising the Shakti to meet the Shiva within our own body, the embodiment of Shakti or the embodiment of Shiva, why it becomes very necessary for us in this timeline. It becomes very necessary for us because let's not talk about the greater good. Let's talk about one person, one life, right? And if we talk about that, if one person actually raises the frequency of her own self, right, and if she becomes the embodiment of Shakti on earth, this is totally possible. This is possible. Every person is Shakti and every person is Shiva here. Shakti is distorted. Because she is distorted, she is not in a full form. Shiva is in the meditative state. Shiva, who resides in all the masculines here on earth, Shakti that resides in all the women in the earth, on the earth. So now because Shakti is distorted, Shiva has closed his eyes. Everybody is just doing anything. And this whole third dimensional plane right now is undergoing a transition. So every time one Shakti actually raises her own energy, if she becomes the embodiment of Shakti, Shiva has to come to join her, because she has actually vibrated her energy that is within her own body at a frequency that will call in the other particle home. She is the home. And in whichever state Shiva is, if he's in the sleeping state, or if he's in other states, or maybe he's not born yet in the physical realm, if the embodiment of Shakti happens in any body, in any woman's body or even a man's body, if that embodiment of Shakti happens and the energy that resides in her own body starts vibrating at the frequency of that of the Shakti, Shiva will wake up. Shiva will come and join her in the third dimension. How does he do it? How does he do it? He does it through men. He rises in men. The man who is sleeping will wake up crashingly. He'll wake up from his deep sleep and he'll realize that, oh my God, my Shakti is here. And this is beautiful. This is beautiful. It happens on earth. It happens in multidimensional planes. It happens every now and then. It is rare, but it happens, and it has been happening. The moment one Shakti rises and her frequency is actually happening, the frequency of the atom or the particle is actually vibrating at the frequency of that of the Shakti, Shiva is going to wake up in a man's body and he's going to join her on the third dimensional plane. It's very beautiful, sounds very romantic, or sounds very I don't know, you can make a cooked story or whatever, but please forget the body and just imagine what happens if one particle is heated. One particle is heated, one particle is pressurized. Imagine the quarks, how they behave. Imagine how the quantum particles behave. Imagine how one particle has the effect on the other particle. So if one particle actually raises the frequency of its own, the other particle wakes up. And that's how Shiva joins Shakti in every dimension. That's how Shiva joins Shakti in every plane, every timeline. It doesn't matter where Shiva is. Shiva could be in the 7th dimension or the 8th or the 9th or beyond all the dimensions. If one Shakti wakes up on the 3rd dimension, he is going to wake up in a man. And that's how he joins Shakti everywhere. He's madly in love with Shakti. That's all for tonight, guys. I'll bring you some other Shiv Shakti story or maybe just a way how to merge that within yourself. So have a great day, folks, and all the best for your own spiritual journey. Bye and take care.